A spine-tingling topic. The spooky music. The day of Halloween.
The fear, the fright.
Fantastic. I tried for the alliteration and it had nothing to do with 3 herbs to combat fear here on the Be Well Now podcast. You know, I am Nick, the Curious Patient, and we're going to explore the role of fear in our overall health and introduce you to 3 potent herbs that can help you find your inner calm. You're a chiropractor, so a spine-tingling topic.
Yeah, exactly. It plays in really well to everything that we do here at Community Health and Wellness. We're going to reduce your fear, improve your health.
Oh, I like that.
And help your spine at the same time.
If you're new to the podcast, please do support the channel by subscribing, and then we're going to deliver the value so that you know why you're doing that. It's Halloween or after Halloween, but fear does lurk around every corner, some might say.
It's there.
It's there.
Ghosts, goblins, ghouls.
And as much as I want to talk about what the kids are dressing up as and whether you're going to the local haunted house, I think we should talk about like 3 herbs people can use to reduce anxiety and fear, because fear is a big deal. The fact that I don't think people realize they're scared is probably what is actually scary.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't recognize fear and they don't recognize its impact in their body. Right. And so a lot of our training that we do here is to help people to recognize those earliest cues of fear so that they can begin to combat against them or to work in a way that's harmonious for their body, so that they're not in a constant state of fear. Because what will happen is you'll have a variety of triggers and you'll take them on and just be like, oh, and not fully process it or release it. And then you carry it forward in your day. And then eventually you're in this state of anxiety and stress and fear, and you're not even sure why. And it affects your emotions. It affects your hormone balance. It has a significant effect in so many physiological functions in your body that it's so important to make sure we get this fear response right.
And the body keeps a score is a book or term I've heard before. I think the body holds on to a lot of trauma and
keeps a journal, I like to say.
Yeah, and it feels really hard to dislodge, and I'm sure there's books and podcasts about that. I don't know how to get into that in a podcast, but do you have any strategies for folks, whether it's herbs or just a mindset around what's actually happening in their body?
Yeah, so as far as the mindset aspect, we do a lot of scripting. We really like scripting. We like to use heart math and coaching for people. But also,
none of that makes sense to me if I've never heard it before.
Yeah, so that's
my job, is to be like I don't understand. Okay.
Therapies that you can engage in with a therapist. But also I really like tapping. If you haven't ever utilized or worked with tapping before, it's really activating acupuncture points, which are neurological points that refer to areas of the brain. And brain activation and nerve activation is basically our fear response. And so if we can help to calm or sedate or relax some of that as well with tapping, which we can do, then we can have a pretty significant impact on our body and our physiology and help move some of those fearful experiences from the past through our body.
Haven't tapped in a while.
Oh, you want to try that?
I might be too scared.
So, yeah, it's a fearful thing, especially if you're in public. You look around and you're like, what are they going to think if I start tapping? But there's a lot of acupuncture points. Some people will even just massage the point between their thumb and their forefinger. That can be considered a tapping. Other people you can even squeeze like your leg down by your knee, the inside of your leg, and just massage a little tender point there, and that will help to bring the heart rate down. But you can also tap on the top of the head. You can tap between the eyes. You can tap around an eye. You can tap under the nose, under the lips, either side of the breastbone you can tap on, and on the axillary line, mid-axillary line, underneath the armpit or under the arm there. So all of those points, there's many more points that you can find and look at to tap your way out of fear.
I love that.
So that's a very simple tool that you can use right now. One of the things that I think is important for us is to be able to have a variety of tools as well, which is why in our podcast, right, Nick, we focus on giving a variety of different tools. We want to give you very simple, maybe mental health, neurological and mental health strategies, but also we want to give you herbal strategies. We want to give you physical things that you can do, and things that you can do right now. And so I picked some basic herbals that most people are really familiar with, that will help you this Halloween season to limit and reduce or combat some of your fear, anxiety.
Yeah, just things that we can use, distilling all of your wisdom into probably oversimplified strategies. But I mean, you are such a believer in plants and their ability to heal. It's like, just tell me stuff I can implement.
So the first
I'm not going to read the journals.
Yeah, well,
I'm here for you to tell me.
I don't know why you're not doing that, Nick.
You've shown me. I'm like, oh, facts and words. This is interesting. I'm glad you're reading them for us.
I'm glad you're reading them. Yeah, someone's got to distill them. Sure, I'm happy to do that. Okay. I enjoy that. So our first herb, if we'll talk about the herbs now, is called in Chinese medicine, because I was having a conversation with my staff the other day, and it was like, oh, I learned all these herbs in Mandarin. And then I began to realize, oh yeah, all of these have botanical names as well, right? I was a young student, and I didn't at first make that connection. So I now like to, because I learned them initially, I like to understand them because I see them in a certain way in Mandarin because that's how I was taught. So they have a understanding to me in Mandarin, but then I also like to understand their botanical name or their common name. So the Mandarin name is Guan Ye Lian Chao. And that may mean nothing to anyone, but it's St. John's wort. So St. John's wort is actually, it's a bright yellow flowering plant, and it works on the heart. It works to help sedate the body, and it works on the spleen as well. And it works actually more specifically on the spleen organ than it does on the heart, but it does enter also the heart and the lungs. Okay, so from a Chinese medicine perspective, when we say, okay, this herb actually enters this organ pathway, each of those organs are related to emotions. So the emotion generally of fear and fright is stored or lodged typically in the kidney and the urinary bladder. Really? So that meridian. So we'd be looking to help nourish in some way the kidney and the urinary bladder, or herbals that can impact the kidney and the urinary bladder. Now the kidney and the spleen work together to help immunity and to help promote a lot of energy for the body, like metabolic energy and digestive strength and clearing fluids and breaking foods down, secreting and producing enzymes and things. So they work together. So St. John's wort can actually be a very beneficial thing to, I say, bring you back to earth. So spleen is an organ that's related to the element earth, or to the minerals of the world that we experience. And so that is going to help bring you back to earth. So you're not as so flighty or filled with stress or anxiety from a fearful experience, whether that's chronic or acute.
How would I take it?
So the best way to take it is, well, you can take it in a capsule form. I like to take things usually herbally or as in a powder form in a tea. I like to take them that way because it crosses over the oral cavity, and it's absorbed, because we actually have absorption in our oral cavity. And
is that, so that's actually better to drink it as a tea versus a capsule?
Yes. If you take something in a capsule, it's fine. It's better to take it rather than not to take it, because you can't stand the taste of it. And St. John's wort is not necessarily a super horribly tasting one, but if you can't bear the taste, it's better to take it in a capsule than not. But it's better generally to have things cross over your oral cavity.
And is it a preventative herb, or would you take it if you're feeling stressed?
Mostly if you're feeling stressed. I wouldn't necessarily take it long term, unless you're really dealing with more chronic stress and anxiety. But but it's better used for periods of time. So I would say for, 10 to 30 days at a time.
Coffee's a real stress reliever.
Sure. if you're keeping it's a stress inducer too. Yeah.
I know it is.
So
it involves fight or flight and all kinds of things. I was joking around, folks. It's bright and early.
There you go.
On this dreary October morn.
So, speaking of fight or flight, that's absolutely part of what happens. And we're going to talk about an herb here in just a minute as well that more significantly impacts the kidney meridian. But before we get there, let's talk about how that could potentially impact you. So if you have, if you've ever been scared before, you've been to that spook alley, or you're out,
you're just anxious.
In the dark,
the world
walking around.
I know it's Halloween, but people are scared of everything.
Yeah, and this is a good time to talk about fear because, Halloween draws in that type of a setting, right? That type of a mood.
I'm scared I'm not going to get my to-do list done today,
Yeah.
Like I've got a lot going on. So there's just anxiety about the day-to-day.
Yeah, and so there's plenty of anxiety and stress throughout all of life, not just even Halloween.
Right.
But this is just a fun topic for us to be able to cover it on, right?
I'm just saying this is a real thing for people.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we're not trying to make light of it either. Okay, Nick's trying to draw me back to, hey, this is reality. Don't have too much fun.
Enough fun. Let's get back to the facts here, folks. Come on now. So the herb you mentioned is number 1, and we have 3 herbs, right?
Yep.
So I've heard of this next one.
Yeah, and I bet most people have. It's become really popular recently. I think maybe within the past 8 to 10 years, it became quite popular. Before that, I would say it wasn't even on our radar.
I was putting it in my green smoothies back in the green smoothie craze of 2010 or so.
Yes.
When everyone was a raw vegan, before they all stopped being raw vegans. Wait, I don't want to go there though.
That's a different topic.
But the big influencers I used to follow, none of them are raw vegans anymore. But they were like hardcore raw vegan is the way. And they were putting these in their smoothies. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So next.
Grateful for that time of my life.
Rhizoma cibati. What is that? Well, that is goji berries.
Goji berries.
Also known as wolf berries or just goji.
A wise person once said they were packed with antioxidants and have been shown to improve sleep quality and reduce stress.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely.
Who wrote those crisp words?
Yeah, isn't that clear and nice? So
it is elegant.
The liver organ itself is actually the regulator of depression, of a lot of sleep and stress in the body. And this herb enters the liver organ. It also enters the kidney. Now remember, we talked about the kidney previously. And so this is a really important herb for fear and fright, because stress, anxiety, fear, fright, depression, all of those kind of go in hand together. Okay? They play and have this interaction with one another. And so they can weave and bob back and forth. But it's so important, if you're feeling those type of emotions, to support the liver and the kidneys in your body.
Feels like the liver is everything.
Well, the liver plays a significant role, right? If you begin to look at all of the proteins that the liver produces and the enzymes that it releases and the way that it takes a role in digestion and preparation for detoxification and elimination. Yeah, it plays a huge role, purifying your blood, balancing the sugars in your blood, all sorts of things. So liver plays a significant role in a lot of ways. And so if there is a liver deficiency, as we like to say in Chinese medicine, or a kidney deficiency, even if there's a dysfunction within those organs, it doesn't have to be deficient. It could be in excess, could be overactive. That can cause problems for our body and our physiology. And one of the ways to reduce and calm those is to take some goji berries. A lot of people used to, I saw this again previously, not so much anymore. Goji berries have kind of gone out of style right now.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll bring them back.
It's possible. We are a trend-setting podcast.
Yeah, we are so trend-setting. Yes. And at least for 40 people, right? And so at this point right now, what we're going to do is encourage you to get some goji berries and to snack on them during the day if you're feeling these feelings of fear and fright.
You okay with fruit? Does it have too much sugar?
Do they have too much sugar?
Just talk to me about fruit. Is it okay?
Yeah, yes, fruit is good. If you pick fruit if you're eating or consuming fruit, as in you picked it off of a tree, right? Or it closely or most recently came from a tree or from its source, then yes, that's a great way to consume fruit. Other ways that people consume fruit is in a bag that's dusted with added sugar. That is not an appropriate way to consume fruit. So when people are concerned about blood sugar, they want to stay away from fruit, is what they're saying. But that's mostly because of added sugar. If you're consuming fruit and it has the fiber, it has the skin, it has all of the context of that original product there, like when you picked it from the tree, then that's a very good thing to consume. So fruit, is it going to cause a significant spike in your blood sugar? Well, I would argue that having a spike in blood sugar and an increase in insulin is actually a good thing from time to time. But it's the continuous, repeated, chronic, overabundant spiking of sugar. So if you're repeatedly eating, and it's especially comes from processed sugars, where it's refined carbohydrates and there's basically no mineral density and no fiber in that food to slow the spiking down. You're getting a far stronger spike and a more aggressive one from that type of a food than from eating fruit.
And speaking of fruit, like if you were to get really scared, I heard goji berries can be helpful with urinary incontinence.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Nick, because I wrote this on here because we see this a lot. And there's a lot of people who deal with urinary incontinence, and it's not just a female issue. Yeah. It's a male issue too.
It's not like a jokey joke thing. I mean, it's a real thing. Like what do you mean? Like people, just like a little dribble or like pee in your pants or what do people struggle with? You're the doctor. I don't know.
Well, boo. Ooh, and then you pee your pants, right? So have you ever heard the phrase, "You scared me so bad I peed my pants"? There's urinary incontinence.
Where it depends,
Yeah. So, but no, it is very, very common for women who've had babies to experience urinary incontinence. And they need an answer for that. Well, nourishing the kidney and the urinary bladder is a beneficial way. It's a very good way to support or prevent urinary incontinence.
You got to eat anyway. If you're going to be eating throughout the day, why not pepper some of these mixed metaphors into your diet?
Goji berries are going to help with that. Okay. Is goji berry going to solve that issue completely? Unlikely. There are other things. There's pelvic floor exercises that we would introduce for you. There's even stimulators and different things that you can do to help strengthen and retrain those muscles that we can turn you on to if you're interested in that. You can call our office or you can email us. Like and subscribe, by the way, right?
Yeah, you have all kinds of herbal formulas for all kinds of different things, and you test people with blood and urine analysis and use your expertise to help with those numbers and that story that those tests are telling you. And so I know that you believe in the power of these herbs, but you also believe in the power of the actual fruit and plants, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. It's plants in general, right? It's plants in general. And the world around us has a contextualized way of living, a way of surviving, a way of perpetuating life, right? And the reality is we have for millennia survived and lived in congruency, in harmony with these plants. Now, certain plants, when we consume them, can be toxic, especially if we consume them in the wrong amount or at the wrong time or the wrong part of the plant. It can be toxic. It can be what we call poisonous. And so you do have to be very careful. You don't just want to go testing on yourself and saying, oh, I'm just going to experiment for myself and consume whatever plant I want. You definitely want to be guided by somebody who is knowledgeable and understands and has been working in that arena for a while.
Obviously, but borrowing the wisdom of plants is interesting, and we can get into that some other time. Because I know there's a guy online who says that veggies are bad because plants have all these defense chemicals.
Yes.
And they don't want you to eat them, and then you have to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, so they don't want bugs to eat them. And if you take plants, so if you look at modern agriculture that has actually self-selected for higher amounts of like a glutenin, which is a protein that if bugs do consume it basically implodes their bellies, okay, and causes inflammation and irritation to them. Well, it does the same thing to humans.
Really?
Right? It does the same thing to humans. So if we're consuming higher amounts of certain proteins like that, or if we're consuming higher amounts of inflammatory compounds, is it going to cause irritation to us? Yes. But plants were put on the earth for our good, for our healing, for our nature, and for our support. Plants do not, I would say, are not in the way to say, oh, I'm here to prevent you from consuming me, right? Of course, every living thing wants to live, wants to self-sustain. So if we borrow this idea that he's going with and say, oh, a plant. Okay, a plant has defense mechanisms. Well, one of the defense mechanisms it could cause a problem for you. Well, we also have bacteria. We also have viruses. We have these things within our bodies that we've lived with for tens of thousands of years, millennia. We've learned to create harmony with, right? So our bacteria, we've learned to create harmony with. Yet when I go to the doctor and I'm told, oh, you have an infection, it actually happens to be a species of bacteria that is regularly found in my body all the time, that my body has found harmony with. So at what point does that become destructive? It becomes destructive when that species or that specific strain becomes too great. And that's just a balance thing. That's just a matter of saying, okay, am I overburdened by this bacterial species, and is it causing a problem in my body? Am I eating way too much of a single plant, right? And is that potentially causing an issue or a problem in my body? Well, yeah, I could see that argument. But if you're eating a diversity of plant species and it's from your local environment and the microbiome, it's just contributing to your microbiome and benefiting the bacteria. So knowing as well that our bodies are mostly bacteria. In fact, if aliens came down and split us up and wanted to determine what exactly, like what makes a human, they would determine that it was bacteria and viruses, because we have more bacteria and viruses in our body than we have human cells.
Yeah, so, I just wonder just if that's more of the story about what it is to be a human and why we are the way we are.
Exactly.
These viruses have minds of their own and they control the way we feel, and we're coming at it from different
Well, they can, but we've learned to be in harmony.
Okay.
Right? That's the key, is that over millennia, we've developed a mutually harmonious, symbiotic relationship. So just like the bacteria and the viruses contribute to our health and can actually cause disease, so do plants. So does everything in our environment. So we say in medicine oftentimes, dose is the most important thing. Dose matters, right? So it's the amount of something that you're consuming and the regularity and frequency that you consume it that contributes to whether or not you're perpetuating a state of harmony moving forward. Okay? So that's the real ticket when you get to the question of, should we not eat plants because they have defense mechanisms? You absolutely should, because I think part of that intelligence is giving your body and your immune system, it's teaching your immune system to have a defense mechanism against other things that might be lurking in your environment, like ghosts and goblins and ghouls.
Yeah, hopefully it's teaching you to listen to this podcast, because that's a defense mechanism against unwellness.
That's right.
Dis-ease. A chamomile tea, man, that's a calming. I've been on the chamomile tea train for a while. That's the third herb.
Chamomile tea. Chamomile is also a little kind of yellowish, greenish flower, a small flowering plant. And this one is, generally considered to be warming. And I like the flavor of it too. I really like chamomile tea. It's a subtle flavor. It's pretty soft, and it enters the lung, the heart, and the stomach. So it can help calm and settle the stomach a little bit, but it helps the heart a lot. And when we talk about fear and fright, we've discussed the liver's role in fear and fright and anxiety and stress, and we talked about the kidney, which is really more of the fear aspect of it. And now the heart. So the heart's role is more of you could say, there's a thinking part of the heart in Chinese medicine called the Shen. Okay? And the Shen can be disturbed. And if the Shen is disturbed, then it's hard to really fully process your thoughts, or you might feel like you're in a fog, or you might even have really a significant amount of difficulty shutting your brain off. Okay? And so when you get into a fear or a fight or flight type of scenario, that's often what's going on. Is the brain is supercharged, right? There's so much axonal activity in the nerves. It's pushing so hard, and you're so hyper-focused. And what we need to do is calm that bit down. And that is actually in Chinese medicine related to the Shen, or the heart. We say it's the thinking part of the heart. And this can be calmed down by consuming some chamomile tea. So it can also be beneficial for a fast heart rate, right? So if you're experiencing a racing heart and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to calm, your pulse rate's high, drink some chamomile tea, you just got scared, or you're living in a constant state of fear because your life is incredibly stressful and very fearful, then consume some chamomile tea. That'll help you.
Well, I think it's good to consult with a healthcare professional before incorporating any new herbs, right? That's a good idea.
Absolutely.
We can communicate the stuff over a podcast, but that's what I've learned, how individualized healthcare is and how important it is to find someone like yourself. If they want to find someone like yourself, how do they do that?
Yeah, so if you want to find us, you can reach out to chwheber.com online, or you can email us here at the podcast, right? And you can send in some suggestions or questions. You can also call us here at the office. 435-657-3696 is our direct number. You can text into that number, or you can call. And we'd love to be of assistance.
It's been a chilling journey into the world of fear and health.
Ooh, but my spine is feeling much better.
Less tingly. I think that you don't want it to cast a long, haunting shadow, fear, over your soul.
No, you do not. You want to make sure that you're calm and resolved, collected, because you're going to be empowered by 3 herbs.
St. John's wort, chamomile tea, and
goji berries.
Signing off on the Be Well Now podcast, I'm Nick, the Curious Patient.
And I'm Dr. Ron Dummar.
Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.